We're wrapping up our spring series with our national top 12 rankings, which, judging by everyone else who has released something similar, these will be controversial to some. But that's what the month of May is for, to argue about college football, since we're still 3 months away. This is Always Talking Ball. Tyler Noe, Lance Barton. Our numbers on YouTube are rising, so look below our video right now. Make sure you're subscribed on Apple and Spotify. Make sure you're following. Click that follow button. First things first, Lance. I've got to ask you. You didn't know I was going to ask you this, but I've got to ask you about the possible ending to the USC Notre Dame rivalry that has been making its rounds since Pat Forty talked about it a couple days ago. It's all over radio stations. It's all over X. People have their opinions and talking about it. Me being a Notre Dame fan, have my opinions on it, which I'll share. But you being an outsider and from the South, just looking at that rivalry, the longest intersectional rivalry in the country, what are your thoughts on stuff like that, this happening in college football?
Well, as a fan of the sport, I hate it. That's, two brands, a long-time traditional rivalry. If you're a traditionalist of the sport, I'm a little bit of a mixture of a traditionalist and a modernist when it comes to the sport. But especially with the rivalries, like, dude, USC Notre Dame needs to play year in and year out. We got the backyard brawl the last few years. Games like that, true rivalries. The fact that we don't have bedlam right now between Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, like, that's what separates the sport, the passion, the pageantry, the bitter rivalries that we have in college football. That's what separates the sport from any other sport in collegiate athletics or in the pro sports. And so losing a game like that with two brands like that, it would be awful. Truly would be. And I mean, I know you've got your thoughts on it. I haven't taken a deep dive into where this is all coming from. I've seen people saying that it's not coming from Notre Dame side, that it's mostly coming from USC side. If that is true, I'm going to say this about it. Most probably would think that I would pile up on Lincoln Riley and USC here with what I'm saying. I have seen a lot of the Big Ten non-conference schedules over the last few years. You've seen Michigan that has actually challenged themselves and played Texas. You saw Ohio State. They're about to play Texas as well. But let me give you an example like Penn State. If you're a Penn State fan, or if you have anything to do with Penn State football, and you're looking at this and acting like that USC is a coward or USC is just trying to run from competition, you need to miss me with that and sit this one out. Because I've looked at your non-conference schedule this year, and it's a joke. And it's a joke most years, to be honest with you. So the fact that USC now is playing non-conference games in the Big Ten and playing the teams that they're playing year in and year out, I'm sure that they may not, from a competition standpoint of wins and losses and making a playoff and things like that. Yeah, I don't know that they necessarily just want to jump in the ring with a top-tier program like what Notre Dame is now under Marcus Freeman. But I will admit that does sound cowardly, okay? We're about competition here, and you should want to step up and play in these big games and play in the biggest games possible. But I will say one more thing about this. We've preached on this podcast many times about how the College Football Playoff Committee, or whoever it is that decides going forward who's going to be in a 12-team playoff, 16-team playoff, however many damn teams are going to be in the playoffs, they need to factor in truly teams that challenge themselves with their schedule, and especially reward teams that are playing a tough non-conference schedule. Because rewarding teams that just because they've got more wins, they've got 11 wins and so-and-so's got 10 wins, so that means that this team over here with 11 wins is better than the team with 10 wins, is truly not the case. Usually. That team with the 10 wins might have played number 3 Notre Dame in a non-conference game, while Team A over here with 11 wins played Akron. And obviously, USC more than likely would beat Akron. Sorry, Akron, I know you're catching some strays here. But that's just the way I feel about it. As a traditionalist and a modernist and as a fan of college football, no, I don't want to see that game go away.
Yeah, I mean, my question is, why is it coming out now with all the chatter about the 16-team playoff and the AQs, it's like, that game is not a conference game. So really all that matters is if you're in the Big Ten, getting in the top 4, right? So why now are they talking about ending the rivalry? If really we've talked about how, these non-conference games, while they're going to be awesome to watch, and, if you got 3 at-large spots, they'll be valuable. But in the long run, you're talking about just finishing in the top 4 of the Big Ten. So what does it matter if you play Notre Dame, you go to South Bend in the middle of October, you lose by a field goal? Like, what's it going to matter?
Now, it's a good point, because if you do lose that game and still finish in the top 4, like, it's not going to count against you.
Yeah.
That's a great point. And maybe it's just a factor of, too, that like USC or whoever that would go through this and try to weaken their non-conference schedule. Maybe it's like, we want to give ourselves even more of a chance here to pick up one of those AQ bids. Because, again, unfortunately, people will say with their mouths, the committee and stuff will say that we want you to challenge yourselves. We reward people who actually play a tougher schedule. We have not seen that yet.
Yeah.
We haven't. They say that
standardized strength of schedule needs to become a thing. There needs to be a standardized metric. We all agree on that.
Yep, agreed. So until that's the case, then yeah, like I don't necessarily blame teams for wanting to look. They already know, USC already knows they're going to be playing like some sort of a schedule that includes the Oregons, Penn States, Ohio States, Michigans, whatever, in some little order. And now obviously Coach Siggs at Indiana, what they're doing, Burt Bielema at Illinois, what they're doing, PJ Fleck at Minnesota. Like there's a lot of the Big Ten is deeper and deeper year after year, it seems like right now. And so, yeah, challenging yourself with a big-time non-conference game like that, that's I don't know how much you get rewarded for that. But you made a great point there on the 4-team, as far as 4 teams, automatic qualifiers in the Big Ten and 4 in the SEC, that as long as you finish in the top 4 in your conference, then you're going to get a playoff bid.
Well, my question is, too, is like, you look at their schedule, and with the 18 teams in the Big Ten, you're playing half the team. You're playing 9 games, right? So you're playing a little over half the teams. They haven't played Ohio State either the first 2 years, which is mind-boggling. But you look at their schedule this year. I mean, they've got Michigan, they've got Oregon, they got UCLA. You take Notre Dame off that schedule, like those are the 3 games right there that the fans are only going to care about. They're not going to care about Missouri State or Georgia Southern coming in early September. They're not going to care about Purdue. They're not going to care about Illinois. Like, those aren't long storied rivalry games like a Notre Dame is. But every time Notre Dame comes to town, the Saturday after Thanksgiving, every 2 years, USC fans will care about that game. I don't understand it. And for my Irish fans out there, yeah, it's another weak move by Lincoln Riley, who literally every chance he gets seems to run away from competition. We all know that that's what he did from the SEC.
Yep. No, I don't disagree. And then obviously all the stuff that came out with them trying to get out of that LSU game, which they ended up winning. They ended up winning that game against LSU, so it ended up being a moot point. But still, the fact is that it was coming out that USC was trying to find their way out of that game against USC in Vegas last year. But I don't look. I'm not defending. It sounds like I guess I am kind of defending USC and Lincoln Riley a little bit. I'm really not. I'm just
bad for him. You feel bad for him because everyone's piling on him for years.
Yeah. I mean, not even feeling bad. Like he's warranted again in a sport where it's the ultimate competition in football. Like when it looks like that you're trying to shy away from competition, and then you do it repeatedly, you bring all that on yourself.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at it from the perspective though that in college football right now, as far as right now, like Nick Saban talked about this when they made a 14 playoff, and then when they expanded. All that people are going to care about anymore going forward is the 12, however many teams in the playoff, getting into that playoff. So what's the best way that you can position yourself to be one of those teams that make it into the playoffs? Is it the best way? Is the best thing for USC to do to make a 12-team or 16 playoff, play Notre Dame in the non-conference? I don't know the answer to that. Probably not. But you made a great point in the 4-team automatic qualifier deal there that playing Notre Dame in the non-conference honestly should definitely not hurt their chances, and it may not have anything to do with it at all.
Yeah.
And the committee should reward them if they do play a number 3 ranked Notre Dame, and it's an absolute just war, said the word, in South Bend or in the LA Coliseum, instead of rewarding so-and-so over here that beats, some lower level G5 team.
Yeah.
But I get it, man. I get why the people are piling up on them about it. I hope that it doesn't happen. That would be a real shame for one of the longest fun rivalries in our sport.
Yeah, same here, man.
Hey, real quick, look at the bottom of this screen and hit that subscribe button for us, please. And also follow us on Apple and Spotify. It doesn't cost you a thing, and it helps us out a ton. We greatly appreciate it.
Now, if you've been following us since August of 2023, since we started doing this podcast, at that time we knew it was going to a 12-team playoff. So we said, you know what, let's just rank 12 teams. We're not big on preseason rankings here, but, we'll do them. It's fun. It's fun to talk about. Pretty soon here, we might have to do that top 16 ranking, but that's for another episode to talk about. We've talked about all of these teams we're going to mention in our top 12 in our conference preview episode. So if you want to check those out or want to check out each individual team broken out, they're all on our YouTube page. So head over there and watch them. But let's get to it, Lance. Number one in our post-spring top 12, the Texas Longhorns. Arch Manning season. As we mentioned, Sark has that program humming. Talent acquisition-wise, they're recruiting at a level that they have not recruited at, honestly. Since the Mac Brown mid-2000s, right, where they're getting all that talent.
Just look at the NFL draft this past year.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
You need to look at. They had more draft picks and first-round picks and top 2-round picks, and I think they had in however many years combined before that.
Yep. So I think one of the themes you'll see here with, 75% of these teams we're talking about in our top 12 is a lot of unproven quarterbacks. And some will say Arch is unproven, but he has started some games. He's got some solid playing time the last 2 years. And honestly, he's just stuck around and he's been in the same system now. And this is going to be his third year. So he knows this system, and that's going to be a huge advantage for them. And so we talked about, go ahead. We talked about their defense and everything, and Anthony Hill, all those guys. They look like a powerhouse. Now, whether or not they can beat Georgia this year is another story, but they look like they're solid again, man.
Yeah, you said it best with Arch. It should be celebrated in the era of the transfer portal that you got a guy that's as talented as he is with his name and obviously all that he can command on the NIL world that we're in now. The fact that he has sat there and waited his turn like this at the same program within the same system, that's just it's awesome, man. Awesome to see in this day and time. But yeah, he started some games against some pretty weak competition there, like the UL Monroes and Mississippi States last year that had some of the worst defenses in all of college football. They were ranked below 90 in your defensive rankings across the country. But I think we all expect and can project that with his talent and with all that he's going to have around him, and then in Sark's system, he's going to be successful. How successful? Time will tell. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head with Texas, man. The talent acquisition, the overall coaching staff and the staff in general and support staff that they have there at Texas is just as good as anybody in the freaking country. They're the only team in college football that has been to back-to-back national semifinals. We'll call them Final Fours, whatever you want to call them now. They're the only team in the country that's done that. And, it's like people just forget that everybody talks about how we do too, how incredible that Ohio State team was last year roster-wise and that run that they went on in the college football playoff, and they just seemed borderline unbeatable in that playoff. Dude, Texas was sitting there with ball in hand with making that game real interesting really late until Jack Sawyer had his legendary moment there on that strip sack fumble recovery for a touchdown against Ohio State there in that game. But, yeah, man, Texas, if there's some question marks here, they had some guys that went very high in the NFL draft along that offensive line that were multi-year starters there in Austin. They're going to have to replace those guys. But I think at this point, with how well that they've recruited and what they've added to the transfer portal over the last 3 years, the talent that they've stockpiled there, I feel better about Texas's roster in general overall than I do about most other teams in college football.
Yeah.
That they've been consistent over the last 2 years under Sark. And, dude, Sark's offenses are humming when they can run the football. Hugh Weisner coming back and C.J. Baxter coming back from injury, having that 1-2 punch there in the backfield with Arch's legs in general, and obviously the weapons they're going to have on the outside with Wingo. As long as the offensive line can just play solid, they don't have to be dominant. They can just be solid. Then I think that offense is going to be really good. And again, Texas's front seven is as good as anybody in the country, and there's not a better middle linebacker and edge combination than Colin Simmons and Anthony Hill Jr., and then they've got Michael Taft back at safety. So, yeah, I think obviously we've seen a lot of other rankings as well. Texas is in the top 5 for basically everybody, and they're 1 and 2, and a lot of other people's as well for a lot of the same reasons that we just mentioned.
Number 2 in our post-spring top 12 is a team that we have yet to talk about because they are not in a conference. It's an independent, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Marcus Freeman coming through in his 4th season in South Bend, obviously with a national championship appearance in his 3rd season. And really kind of, we haven't talked about him yet, but the job that they did last year with all the injuries they had. And really, let's be honest, like Notre Dame, comparing to Texas and Ohio State and Alabama and Georgia and Oregon and maybe even Clemson now, they don't have the type of talent, like blue chip talent, that a lot of those teams have. So the job that he's doing there with Mike Denbrock on the offensive side of the ball and now Chris Ash taking over for Al Golden on the defensive side of the ball, he's got to get a lot of credit for that. We were harping on him big time after that Northern Illinois game. He proved everybody wrong, rattled off 12, 13 wins in a row, and really played Ohio State really well. It had a chance to get out of hand, but credit to Notre Dame, they fought back. But they've got CJ Carr coming in, man. CJ Carr season. We're high on him. Guys like Herb Street are high on him. Everybody is high on CJ Carr, and I think it's because obviously Riley Leonard was a quarterback last year. He was a leader. He was a dual threat. Probably better with his legs than his arm in most cases. But now CJ Carr is a guy who can run, but also he can sling it. He can sling the ball, and that is when Mike Denbrock gets dangerous. When you got a guy like CJ Carr, you got guys in the backfield. Up there with Nick Singleton and Katron Allen is Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. And then you throw in Aeneas Williams as a third down back who played really well in the playoffs last year. And then on the outside, again, with Riley Leonard, they couldn't show a lot of that talent. And they did finally show it in the semifinals and the national championship game with Jaden Greathouse. If he can play in the slot, that'll be huge for CJ Carr. They got Malachi Fields to transfer over from Virginia, who
stud.
He's flying up the mock draft boards right now, so he's a big target for CJ Carr. And then with the offensive line attrition they had last year with those young guys playing, they're going to have one of the best offensive lines in the country, and it's
the best.
It's proven because guys like Pat Coogan and Sam Pendleton, who played big roles on that team last year, transferred. That's how much depth that they already have on the offensive line. So, and then you talk about the defense. Yeah, they lost a lot, but with Chris Ash coming over, I think just with some of the guys they got, like your boy Devontae Smith, they're always going to be solid on the defensive side of the ball. So it should be a fun year in South Bend once again. Now, we don't talk schedules, but you look at their schedule this year, it's tougher than last year, especially those first 6 games of the season. So it should be fun to watch the Irish this year starting off.
Yeah. Mike Denbrock, you know what we think of him. He is arguably the best offensive coordinator in college football. What he did at LSU with Jaden Daniels and that crew, had the number 1 offense in the country, scoring and total offense. The weapons he's going to have the pieces he's going to have to work with this year at Notre Dame is definitely better than what he had last year. And that team played for the national championship. You just hit the nail on the head with CJ Carr. He is the type of quarterback that can really open up and score a lot of points for your offense with his overall arm talent. And obviously we haven't seen him play yet, so we need to see him more and see what he's going to do when live bullets are flying at him here in these bigger games this year. But with the weapons he's going to have around him, with that running game, with the best offensive line in the country, having an OC like Mike Denbrock, man, with all of that to work with, if they can just stay healthy, man, that's any team. If they can just stay healthy, that offense should be a lot better overall, more balanced on, pass and run on that side of the ball. And as long as Marcus Freeman, Notre Dame is one of those teams, as long as Marcus Freeman is the head coach at Notre Dame, I'm not worried about Notre Dame's defense. Yes, they are replacing some pieces. Will they be the number one ranked defense in the country, the number two? I don't know. Their secondary is one of the 2 or 3 best secondaries in the entire country.
Mm-hmm.
I would say going into the year, them and Alabama probably have the 2 best secondaries, our 2 teams in the country going into the season. So Chris Ash, when he was a DC at Ohio State in the past, he was really good. He gets kind of knocked because of what he did as a head coach at Rutgers, but we've seen a lot of guys that are really good at calling plays on offense or defense, being really good coordinators, but they're not necessarily good head coaches. I like the hire of Chris Ash to replace Al Golden. But again, as long as Marcus Freeman is the head coach, I'm not worried about that Notre Dame defense.
I mean, I didn't even mention guys like Leonard Moore, who was a true freshman last year. You got Adon Schuler, Christian Gray, who obviously had a rough championship game, but he's going up against Jeremiah Smith. So I mean, what do you expect?
And Devontae Smith, by the way, is the type of player that you would think when you think of Marcus Freeman and his makeup and just toughness and the culture that he wants to build there at Notre Dame, that you watched them last year, their culture is what got Notre Dame as far as they had talent and they were good, whatever, but overcoming all the injuries that they overcame and the things that they did and finding different ways to win football games, whether they be running the football, whether that be out of nowhere, just going air raid basically in the second half against Penn State like they did, just finding ways to win ball games and make it to the national championship game. Devontae Smith is that type of player for Notre Dame. He is a dog mentality. Tough. But Notre Dame overall on both sides of the ball, I think they do have more talent than what they had last year. And they're absolutely a national championship contender going into the season.
Well, I think it speaks to the depth that they've recruited too. I mean, you got to talk about the injuries too on the defensive side of the ball, like Riley Mills getting injured in that Indiana game. And you had a guy like Gabriel Rubio coming in and really it looked like Riley Mills wasn't even missed in that Georgia game. And, a lot of the guys got a lot of good playing time last year. So like you said, as long as Marcus Freeman's in South Bend, Notre Dame should be a contender. And now they got a quarterback too. So it'll be interesting to see what the Irish can do this year. Number 3 in our post-spring top 12, the Clemson Tigers. They are a team who, like Penn State, who we'll mention later, they do have some experience at quarterback. Again, 3rd year for Cade Klubnik and Garrett Riley's system. And this time he's got some wide receivers to throw to. They've got fantastic defense. Dabo's got things rolling, and he's done it his way.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a remarkable improvement of what Cade Klubnik did from year 1 in Garrett Riley's system to year 2. It really is. And obviously it doesn't hurt that when you've got a little bit better of an offensive line and when you've actually got receivers like they've got with TJ Moore and Bryant Wesco and Antonio Williams. I mean, that threesome there is probably only second to Ohio State in the entire country as far as your 3 wideouts. And I talked about this a lot last year before the season, man. The hiring of Matt Luke as their offensive line coach was a big deal and was probably one of the more underrated hires because I know a position coach may not get a lot of publicity like a coordinator would or a head coach. But Clemson had issues ever since really the Trevor Lawrence years. They've had issues along the offensive line, and they had issues obviously at really on the entire offense. Quarterback position just wasn't living up to the standards that you had there with Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence. Offensive line wasn't as good. They didn't have the same wideouts that they had during those years that they were making it to the national championship almost year after year. They've literally got all of those pieces in place now on the offensive side of the ball. And you know how Dabo is, man, as far as his how loyal he is to his coaches. And for him to, fire a DC, a guy that had been with him for a long time, like a Wes Goodwin, and to go out and I think he realizes too, this is his best chance in the last few years to really, really compete at that national championship level. And to go to get a guy like a Tom Allen, who I think fits his just overall culture and probably exactly what they needed because the pieces that they've got back on defense, man, is just, arguably the best defensive line in the country, arguably the best front seven in the country going into the season. Overall, I mean, they've got multiple guys like a T.J. Parker and Peter Woods who are listed in very high in your NFL mock drafts, and rightfully so. And again, man, probably a couple of these teams we're going to mention, guys, transfers from Purdue. If you followed along with us these last few weeks, we're breaking down some of these teams. It's just hilarious when we're looking at some of these top teams in the country and guys that these coaches have been talking about and a lot of people have been reporting about in spring ball that are just really good pieces that these teams have added. There's multiple dudes from Purdue. Literally.
Worst Power 5 or Power 4 team out there.
Yeah, the worst Power 4 team in the country last year. And then a guy, defensive end like Will Helt, who a lot of team, when he entered the transfer portal, all your top teams in college football were wanting this guy. And then you go look at the production that he had at Purdue. He's really good at Purdue. And then so you add him in on the defense, on the other edge and defensive end, other opposite of T.J. Parker. Yeah, I mean, that really shores up that defensive front for Clemson. And this is no doubt they're a national championship contender. And this is the best Clemson team that they've had since 2019. I'm including that 2020 team, Trevor Lawrence's last year. I think this team across the board, offense, defense, coaching staff, all combined, is the best team that they've had since 2019.
Number 4 in our post-spring top 12, the Ohio State Buckeyes. We're probably a little higher on them than most I've seen, but I think we're just kind of confident in the fact that Ryan Day's there, Brian Hartline's there. They don't rebuild, they reload. Yes, they lost a lot, but I think they're going to reload, man. And when you've got the best player on offense in the country and the best player on defense in the country, and a quarterback in Julian Sayin that has obviously taken some mop-up duty snaps, but you know he's got talent, and Ohio State's got talent at every position. Whether or not they have depth, I don't know, but I think we're just relying on Ohio State being able to reload.
Yeah, I mean, again, they're like Texas, like we talked about a minute ago with them. Yep. I mean, the recruiting, the talent acquisition to the transfer portal and high school recruiting is as good as there is in the country. Ohio State has been the most consistent program of our lifetime. No matter who's coaching there, they're always really good. They're always competing at a Big Ten championship, national championship level. And Ryan Day finally got over the hump and got that national championship last year. But like the receiving core, with Julian Sayin coming in, like my question mark for Ohio State is, if you followed along this show, my question marks are with all that they lost on both sides of the ball, but also what they lost in their coordinators. I mean, Chip Kelly got offered $6 million per year to go coach in the NFL for the Las Vegas Raiders for Pete Carroll. Yeah. That's what the NFL and Pete Carroll thinks of Chip Kelly. And then you're replacing him with the best wide receivers coach and one of the best recruiters, like an elite recruiter and an elite developer of wide receiver talent in college football, the best there is at that. But we don't know what he's going to be as the primary play caller. Brian Hartline has had the offensive coordinator title before, but he's never been the primary play caller. So what is that dynamic with Ryan Day? Obviously, if Hartline's not doing a great job of calling plays or whatnot, we know that Ryan Day can obviously take the reins and call plays again. He's done that many times in his career. He's been a play caller for a long time in college football. But Chip Kelly was incredible at that, especially during that playoff run. He was in his bag during that playoff run. And then losing Jim Knowles. I know Buckeye fans will act like that somehow he was trash or whatever when you had the number 1 ranked defense in the country last year, the number 3 ranked defense in the country the year before that, and the number 12 ranked defense in the country before that, and then you were in the 50s before Jim Knowles took over. But what they're replacing on that side of the ball, we are putting a lot of stock into them just reloading and them just being next man up. Guys like a Kenyatta Jackson, guys like a Bo Atkinson that they brought in the transfer portal from North Carolina, who's an absolute dog. But it doesn't hurt when you've got arguably the best middle linebacker in the country in Sonny Styles, and like you said, the best player, period, on defense in Caleb Downs. With the talent that they seem to reload there every year, as long as Julian Sayin turns out, because we think that's who's going to end up being the starter.
Yeah.
As long as he is what we all think he's going to be and what his 5-star talent has him, like, again, a lot of these teams are breaking in new quarterbacks. If he ends up being what we think he's going to be with all the weapons he's going to have around him, I think we can safe to say that the Buckeyes will be sitting there at the end of the year competing for a chance for Big Ten championships, national championships, all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, looking down the road in 6 months, this time right now, heading into the game, against Michigan, could we be off on Ohio State right now? Sure. The chances that we're way off and like they're booty and booty for Ohio State's what, 9-3.
I did 10-2 last year with that roster, bro.
Yeah, I just don't think with the schedule they play. I mean, they open up against Texas, but just with the Big Ten schedule they play, I just don't think, and the talent they have, I don't think it's likely that we're just way off on Ohio State. Could we be a little high on them? Sure, but last year we were high on them and it paid off. So,
yep.
Number 5 in our post-spring top 12, the Alabama Crimson Tide, who from our way too early, or actually never too early, top 12 rankings in January and February, they're climbing up the boards too. And this is an extremely talented defense. I've seen people in, comments on social media touting stats that they had against last year's Alabama defense. And it's like, dude, come on. Like, that Alabama defense. Yeah, they were good. Were they great? No. And I think this year they have a chance to be really, really special.
Yeah, they had a top 15 defense in the country last year.
Rushing yards per game, they gave up 137 rushing yards a game. Like, that's not Alabama-esque. Like, that was 40 or 50 in the nation. Like, so they got to shore that up, and I think they will. I think the defense can be really, really good this year. I think obviously the wide receivers are going to be really good. It comes down to the offensive line, and it comes down to Ty Simpson.
Yep. The wide receiver play is going to be really good. And I just think that with Ty Simpson, if that's who probably we project is going to end up being the starter, especially starting out early on, bringing in Ryan Grubb, who obviously Kalen DeBoer trusts. They've been together forever. Those two, when they're together, have compiled a ton of wins together. That I just think that this team is going to be more built in Kalen DeBoer's image, however you want to say it. This is going to be his style of team. He's going to have the receivers that can be vertical threats and attack you down the field with a quarterback that can also attack you vertically down the field. It's just, you hit the nail on the head. That offensive line has to improve. And I think
it could help too if the quarterback just doesn't sit back there and take sacks.
Exactly. I think it was a twofold last year. When you've got a run first quarterback than an athlete like a Milroe, I think that does kind of hurt your offensive line a little bit as far as, maybe giving up some sacks and whatnot, because Milroe, again, is just not your true, in the pocket, maneuvering in the pocket type passer. He's going to take off and run a lot more. I just think that this team is more built as far as Kalen DeBoer, how he wants to on the offensive side of the ball. But, dude, all the pieces that they're bringing back on defense, for a defense that did finish in the top 15 in scoring defense in the country last year, what they're bringing back along the defensive front, arguably the best secondary in the entire country that they're bringing back. If Deontay Lawson at the inside linebacker position, he just nasty knee injury in that Oklahoma game early on in that Oklahoma game last year. If he can come back and be relatively healthy, I think that's the final piece that this defense needs to be one of the more elite defenses in college football this coming up year.
Number 6 in our post-spring top 12, the Penn State Nittany Lions, who we have seen as high as number 1 on a lot of top 20, top 25, whatever you want to say. We've got them at 6, and say what you want about James Franklin. He's overrated. He's not overrated.
He's properly rated.
He's properly rated. He like we've always said, he beats the teams that he should, and he loses to the teams that he should. I mean, he's got to get over the hump this year. Yep. Drew Aller's got to play better, like you talked about in one of our little clips we put out on social media. Drew Aller's got to improve, and him actually having some wide receivers maybe that can get themselves open will help. He doesn't have a safety valve in Tyler Warren this year, but he's got those running backs back there. They've got again, top 5 defense in the country with denied Dennis Sutton anchoring that. And, but they're at number 6 because it's at some point you got to prove it to us. We are a prove it to us podcast. And we went out on a limb in our Big 12 rankings with Texas Tech at number 3 because they just did not prove it to us 2 years ago. and we've given them 2 years, and we said, we're going to trust you guys again. So Penn State, we want to trust you guys. As Lance mentioned earlier, the non-conference schedule is incredibly weak, so they see what they need to do to get into that playoff, and it's up to Drew Aller.
Yep, that's it. If Drew Aller can have I made a comparison when we talked about our Big Ten, power rankings, and we were talking about Penn State. I just talked about this a minute ago, and I'll bring it up again. Like the comparison that I'm making to Drew Aller, that Penn State fans should hope that this happens, is to Cade Klubnik.
Mm-hmm.
Cade Klubnik, in year one, under new OC Garrett Riley a couple of years ago, was just not very good. And had some turnover issues, and just overall just wasn't very good in the offense, wasn't like elite by any means. And then in year two, they got some receivers. It was year two in that new system, and you saw Cade Klubnik have a huge jump last year. Was one of the most improved players, period, across college football. Had 43 total touchdowns for Clemson last year. I expect, and Penn State fans should expect, for Drew Aller to make some sort of a leap forward like that this year in year two in OC Andy Kotelnicki's system. They added the wide receiver pieces, just like Clemson did last year, and now it's going to be year two in Kotelnicki's system. And Aller has to play better in the bigger games. We talked about how just when you look at his numbers in the Ohio State game in the regular season, in the Big Ten championship game against Oregon, and in those 3 college football playoff games, yes, I realize that some of the best defenses in the country. I trust me, I know that. There's a lot of quarterbacks that probably would not look great against Ohio State's defense last year, who also didn't look great against Ohio State's defense, and a lot of quarterbacks that wouldn't look great against Notre Dame's defense. But we're talking about Penn State now as like national championship contender. Those are the freaking teams you're going to have to play and beat to win a national title. We're not talking about Penn State anymore to go 10-2.
Yeah.
Okay. And Penn State fans, I think, would agree with that. So before you jump on here and start trying to defend Aller, who does great against those great teams? He needs to do well against those great teams if Penn State wants to win a national championship. They've got all the other pieces in place. They've got Jim Knowles now as DC, the best defensive coordinator in college football. They've got Andy Kotelnicki, who is one of the best offensive coordinators in college football. They've got a great offensive line. They've got pieces at wide receiver. They've got the best tandem at tailback in the entire country. They've got a really good defense. Drew Aller needs to step up and be the guy that I'm seeing on all these mock drafts if Penn State wants to win a national championship.
Number 7 in our post-spring top 12, the Georgia Bulldogs. And I honestly can't remember the last time in the Kirby Smart era where Georgia will open up the season not in the top 5 in the preseason rankings. And that's just, it's Kirby alluded to it, man. The coaching job that they did last year, getting that team to 10-2, getting them to the SEC championship game, winning the SEC, getting that first round bye. That was an incredible coaching job. There's a reason he's the best in the biz right now. But yeah, they're going to be outside the top 5 most assuredly come August, and it's probably deservedly so. I mean, you got a quarterback in Gunnar Stockton, who in his limited time last year, he had led the comeback against Texas, but didn't look great against Notre Dame. Again, we just talked about the Drew Aller.
Yeah, first start ever, and it was against Notre Dame's defense.
Yeah, two of the best defenses in the country last year. So he'll get a chance to get his feet wet a little bit, the first couple of weeks of the season in the non-conference games against some lower level teams before they go to Knoxville. But it's a team. It's again kind of like Ohio State, where you trust Kirby to reload at some positions and to just figure things out somehow.
Yeah, you see this right here. Here's Kirby Smart having the entire college football world right where he wants them, right in his palm right now with all of these way too early rankings that are going to come out. Like you said, there's a chance they may not even be in the top 5 in the little preseason rankings that get released from the AP and things like that.
He's somehow going to just be like, number 7, like that is we're just getting so disrespected. Like he's still top 10.
Exactly, man. Exactly. But I don't disagree with, I think Georgia fans will be the first to tell you this. They've got to get better on the offensive line. Last year, the offensive line was awful. I think part of that had to do with injuries as well. That running game has to improve. Like Georgia was ranked in the 100s in running the football last year. I mean, we're talking about Georgia here. And a lot of that had to do with the offensive line and, again, some injuries at the running back position. But you know what we think of Nate Frazier here on this podcast? Like, that dude, he's a dog, no pun intended. He's a stud. So if they can get anything out of the passing game from Stockton with the receivers they brought in the transfer portal, with Zachariah Branch and with Noah Thomas, I think that'll obviously help. Dylan Bell's back. Colby Young is back. I think the receiving core is going to be better, and they need to be since they led the nation in drops last year. But a lot of those pieces are no longer there anymore that contributed to that. And we're not worried about Kirby Smart and Glenn Schumann's defense. That defense is always going to be one of the better defenses in the country, no matter who they lose, no matter who they bring back. Just we know how they recruit there and what that scheme and what that defense is made up of in general. They've got one of the best linebackers in the country in C.J. Allen back. If they can stay, they battled a lot of injuries last year. They can stay relatively healthy. I think it could be Georgia could be sitting there at the end of the year, and Kirby could be telling everybody, see, y'all thought we were only going to go 7-5 when everybody had them preseason ranked top 10. But yeah, I think Kirby Smart can actually play a little bit of the disrespected card to Georgia's standards, to what their standards are.
Number 8 in our post-spring top 12, the Oregon Ducks. And you want to talk about another program that is, elite level talent acquisition from Dane Lanning and the boys up there in Eugene. Just bringing in guys through recruiting, bringing in guys through the portal. That's what they do. The Nike money certainly helps from Phil Knight up there.
Yep.
But you kind of trust Oregon as another team now with the depth that they're stocking at certain positions. You trust them like next man up, and it starts with the quarterback. They've been fortunate enough to go from Bo Nix to Dylan Gabriel, two of the most, two guys who had some of the most starts in NCAA history.
Yep.
To a guy who is kind of green. I mean, Dante Moore, he played a little bit his freshman year at UCLA, but he sat last year behind Dylan Gabriel, was able to learn from him a little bit.
Yep.
Was in the system last year with Will Stein. So again, second year in the system, but getting first team snaps this year from the get-go. And I've seen a lot of buzz out there like Dante Moore could be one of those guys who, sleeper for the Heisman.
Yeah, with the system he's going to be running, we've seen since Will Stein's been at Oregon, that system's incredible. It was incredible when he was the offensive coordinator at UTSA as well. And with the weapons he's going to have around him, obviously with the talent acquisition that they've added through the transfer portal, like you mentioned when we were in our Big Ten power rankings, this Isaiah World is listed really high on a lot of mock drafts. A tackle that's out of Nevada. Dude's a monster. Everybody wanted him when he entered the transfer portal. But the addition of Mekhi Hughes, dude, from Tulane, 1,400 yards and 1,300 yards back-to-back years at Tulane. One of the best ads, period, in the transfer portal of this entire offseason, and much needed. When James, the running back last year for Oregon, is gone to the NFL now. But they've got to get a little bit better on the defensive side of the ball, man, against the best competition.
Mm-hmm.
We saw what they did in that Rose Bowl against Ohio State. They obviously weren't great against Ohio State defensively in that game that was in Eugene that they won against the Buckeyes. We were there live at the Big Ten Championship when Penn State just ran all over them, but they just outscored them in a track meet there in Indy. They've got to get a little bit better with Tosh Lupoy's DC on that side of the ball in the bigger games against the most elite competition. That's obviously Dan Lanning's side of the ball as well. So I would imagine that's obviously something that they are looking at this offseason. I mean, if we're talking about it and other people are talking about it, I'm sure they know that as well.
Yeah.
So they got to get a little bit better on that side of the ball. But the offense, man, it should be one of the best offenses in the country again with what they've got coming back. I know Dante Moore is a little bit unproven, but it just tells me a lot, man, that Oregon paid that guy enough money to leave UCLA as their starter to come to Oregon to sit for a year and be the backup to Dylan Gabriel to wait his turn to be able to play now. I just think that tells me all we need to know about what Will Stein and Dan Lanning think of Dante Moore as a quarterback. And you're right. I think he's going to have a big year this year for the Ducks.
Yeah. Let's round out our top 12. We'll start with number 9, LSU Tigers. Other than the year they had Jaden Daniels win the Heisman, and we all know what happened on defense that year, this is the best chance that Brian Kelly at LSU will have had to contend for a spot in the college football playoff, for a spot in Atlanta in December for the SEC championship game. He's got Garrett Nussmeier coming back, another seasoned quarterback. Can BK get it done?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. This is the best team that he's had. If they are a 4-loss type team this year, his seat's going to get really, really hot in a hurry. I don't think that's going to be the case, though. I really don't. I think with Nussmeier back, with the receivers, Aaron Anderson, they've got coming back, with the additions they added in the transfer portal also at wide receiver, two of the best portal receivers, in the country that they added. And I think they're going to have a running game finally. I mean, really, since BK's been there, like LSU, for whatever reason, like, you think back to the days too when Les Miles was there and even when Saban was there, when Coach O was there. I mean, they always had a solid running game and backs that were good. And that's just been kind of non-existent the last few years. And I think last year, the emergence of Cade Durham throughout the year, they signed the number one running back in the country that's out of Louisiana and Harlan Berry. Obviously, the expectations for him this year as a true freshman, I think he could be one of those true freshmen. I listened to Steve Wiltfong the other day from On3 talking about like true freshmen that can make huge impacts this year. And he was one of the main ones that was mentioned. So I think that's going to help take a little bit off of Nussmeier's shoulders, because the last few years, whoever QB1 has been for LSU, you pretty much thought that you had to score on almost every single possession because LSU's defense was so booty. And last year, in Blake Baker's first year in the system, they did improve from the year before. And I would imagine with it being year two, with the addition of Patrick Payton, edge rusher from Florida State, who is a great get in the transfer portal, and then the fact that you're going to have Whit Weeks is going to be back from injury, I just think that this defense is going to be improved. And the X factor to all this, Harold Perkins Jr., as a true freshman, absolutely caught college football by storm. If he can be anywhere near to what he was as a true freshman this year, coming off of injury, then LSU's defense has a chance to be special and to be significantly better. And if that ends up happening, the run game's a little bit better and the defense improves, it takes a ton of pressure off of Nussmeier, and it doesn't feel like that he has to hit a home run on every single throw that he makes, because that's what happened sometimes last year when he threw a couple picks throughout the year. But I think LSU is going to be a contender in the SEC and competing for possibly a spot in the Final Four, national championship level good. That's how good this team can be.
Number 10 in our post-spring top 12, the Florida Gators. And before we press pause and turn this off and say these guys don't know ball, they'll give anyone a podcast these days, whatever. We're not talking schedule here, okay? We know Florida is going to have one of the toughest schedules in the country. We're looking at talent. We're looking at talent acquisition. Yes, we're looking at coaching. We're looking at you, Billy Napier. We're looking at quarterback play. And when you look,
it's a good time to bring this up. Preseason ranking shouldn't be you're projecting against someone's schedule or you're projecting what they're going to be at the end of the year. We're sitting here on May the 21st, and like as we record this, and we're looking at who has the best rosters, the best team. If Team A played Team B on a neutral field, who we think would win that game. And that is what we're looking at, and we're basing it off of coaches and whatnot, like Tyler just said. That's what preseason ranking should be based off of.
Yeah, and this team will go as DJ Lagway goes.
Yep. They're bringing back, obviously, talent on defense. I think that they've added some nice pieces too. Like the wide receiver core at Florida is going to be better than what it's been over the last few years. I think they're really deep at that position group. Obviously, adding a 5-star like Dallas Wilson in the recruiting class. I think he was committed to Oregon at one point, ended up decommitting, going to Florida. But yeah, DJ Lagway's health, because there has been some issues with his, arm and health issues, but he's throwing now. I would imagine, as we sit here in May, come, end of August, early September, that he's going to be ready to go by then. But dude, the emergence of Jaden Ball last year, I know that he's not going to be listed as one of your just top running backs in the country, with Jeremiah Love coming back at Notre Dame and what
he might be on our list later.
Yes, he will be. He will be on our list. Absolutely will be on our list. That's one of the best backfield tandems in the country, man, with DJ Lagway and Jaden Ball. Just how dynamic those two guys are. Just overall physical. They're both just big physical guys too. that I think for that Billy Napier offense to want to hum like he really wants it to, he really wants to run the football, wants to be balanced. I mean, every offense, that's the goal. You want to be as balanced as you possibly can be. I just think that with Ron Roberts coming back, I know that he's not necessarily listed as like the defensive coordinator, but I think everybody realizes that he's obviously has a huge influence and is one of the reasons why that Florida defense is got much improved there last year throughout the end of the year. But what they're bringing back overall, man, with the talent, with DJ Lagway and Jaden Ball, if for anybody who wants to talk about Florida's schedule, I'll say this to you. Those teams also have to play Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Those teams also have to deal with DJ Lagway and Jaden Ball.
It's going to be a lot different than it was last year.
Agreed. I mean, dude, Sark the other day in his interviews that I've seen him in, he's even already talking about their schedule and having to go on the road to the Swamp and play Florida. DJ Lagway did not play in that game last year in Austin because he got hurt in that, the second half against Georgia the week before they played Texas. Playing this Florida team, if they're fully healthy, in the Swamp, like Tennessee has to do this coming up here going to the Swamp, like Texas has to do going to the Swamp. Miami last year when they played Florida week 1, that obviously wasn't the same Florida team that we saw in week 10 or 11 when I think Florida won whatever. They went 4
when Ole Miss went to the down the stretch,
beat Ole Miss, beat LSU, beat teams like that there at the end of the year. That wasn't the same Florida team that Miami played week 1.
Yeah.
This Florida team is going to be a team to be reckoned with this year.
Number 11 in our post-spring top 12, the Texas A&M Aggies. Obviously, Marcel Reed returning at quarterback. Again, not the best, per one running backs, but one of the best and deepest running back rooms in the country resides in College Station, Texas. Wide receivers will be solid again. Defense will be solid again, too. You got to trust Mike Elko in his second year. I mean, just kind of looking what he did at Duke. You got to trust him in College Station. But if you're counting here, I mean, this is the 6th SEC team we've named in the top 12 so far. So, there's still a tier below where Aggie fans and where they want to ultimately get to.
Yeah, I mean, you just mentioned the wide receiver play. I think that's somewhere they needed to get better at this year. Need to get a little bit more explosive, more speed at that position group, and they definitely did, adding Mario Craver from Mississippi State and obviously adding one of the best, period, wide receivers to the transfer portal in Casey Concepcion from NC State. Talking about a guy who's freshman of the year in the ACC. I mean, if he's healthy, he can be one of your biggest difference makers. When we look back and look at transfers, if Texas A&M is going to be a team that is competing for an SEC championship and competing for a college football playoff spot, the addition of Casey Concepcion probably will play a huge role in that. And obviously, former 5-star, number 1 overall athlete in the country, Terry Bussey. Just get the ball in that guy's hands. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of team speed and explosiveness now that, including the quarterback position with Marcel Reed in year 2 and Colin Klein's system. I'm excited about Texas A&M, man, on that side of the ball this year. And I know that this part of doesn't get a ton talked about, but the Maroon Goons on that offensive line, the amount of starts and overall just experience that they're bringing back on the offensive line is the main reason that I think that this Texas A&M offense can be much better this year. And yes, as long as Mike Elko is the head coach in College Station, I'm not going to be worried about Texas A&M overall on their defense. I know that when they played South Carolina last year, Lenora Sellers and them ran all over them. And they were a little rough down there, at the end of last year overall. But you saw how they were fine against Texas. As long as Mike Elko is defensive coordinator there, I'm not worried about Texas A&M overall as a defense.
Rounding out the top 12, at number 12 in our post-spring top 12 is the Arizona State Sun Devils. Finally giving the Big 12 some love. Man, I said 12 a lot of times there. Finally giving the Big 12 a little bit of love here. They are our number 1 power-ranked Big 12 team, and they slot here at number 12. Again, because quarterback play, very important in college football, and they've got Sam Leavitt slinging it back there, who played really, really well down the stretch and in the playoffs. Kenny Dillingham is really reinvigorated that fan base and that whole campus and that university. I mean, you just think about where they were before he got there, just a total dumpster fire program. The Herm Edwards stuff, just it wasn't a good situation. Kenny D comes in and he takes care of business first year, and then gets to the Big 12 championship in his second year. Like it's a heck of a turnaround for Kenny D, and the Sun Devils are looking up this year.
Yeah, I mean, they're one of the few teams that bring back their starting quarterback, head coach, offensive coordinator, and defensive coordinator. Yep. Sam Levin, on most of your top quarterbacks in the country returning this year. You'll see him a lot in your top 5 list. Probably we'll see that as well on ours that will come out later this summer and list season. I mean, dude's a dog, man. He just is. He got a dog mentality. Obviously, bringing back Jordan Tyson. Tyson's been listed as on some of these mock drafts as the top wide receiver for the NFL draft. I've seen a few come out here recently. He got injured last year at the end of the year, and that was a huge deal for Arizona State. And they still ended up winning the Big 12 championship, still ended up pushing Texas to the brink there in the Peach Bowl. But with him coming back at wide receiver, with the addition of running back Kanye Udo from Army, just a fantastic pickup, dude. Like, I remember when that happened, you and I were texting each other like, first off, didn't realize that military academy players would be transferring. But number 2, what a genius pickup. Like, we all know what the running backs at like Army, how good they can be. And him being in an offense like this with Marcus Arroyo, offensive coordinator, and Kenny Dillingham, as good as they are at scheming up a good offense together with Sam Levitt, with using his legs as well. I mean, he's a really good runner too. But having that just balanced offense, like Arizona State last year averaged 230 passing yards a game, 200 rush yards a game. Like, Udo was an absolutely fantastic addition at the running back position there. Yeah, it could be a really, really big year for the Fun Devils again. And I would imagine in that wide open, crazy, just chaotic Big 12 conference where only 3 wins as far as the win totals that FanDuel just released. There's only 3 wins that separate the best team in the Big 12 with their win total to the projected worst team in the Big 12 with their win total. And just for reference, 7 wins is what separates the team that's projected to have the most wins in the Big 10 and the worst team in the Big 10. So that just tells you how wide open that the Big 12 really is. And Arizona State, rightfully so, is who we think is the best team as we sit here right here in May going into the season for the Big 12 this year.
All right, before we get out of here, let's rattle them off once more. Number 1, Texas. Number 2, Notre Dame. Number 3, Clemson. Number 4, Ohio State. Number 5, Alabama. Number 6, Penn State. Number 7, Georgia. Number 8, Oregon. Number 9, LSU. Number 10, Florida. Number 11, Texas A&M. And number 12, Arizona State. We got 6 teams from the SEC. We've got 3 teams from the Big 10. We got 1 team from the ACC, 1 team from the Big 12, and 1 independent. So we are out here representing all corners of the Power 4 in our rankings. So we appreciate you guys once again. We will take the week off next week for Memorial Day. But obviously we're giving you guys plenty to listen to, plenty to watch. We'll be back, starting in June with some summer episodes to, again, just, kill some time. We're going to have some interviews, like we said. We got house settlements to talk about. We got all kinds of stuff to talk about. So it's going to be a fun summer. We'll get you ramped up for the college football season starting on August 23rd, week 0. So appreciate you guys listening once again, and take care.